Here in Northwest Washington, there's a group of local farmers that practices both sustainability and community outreach. In this film, our crew chats with 3 of those farmers to get their story. My name is Sam Kristofferson, and this is From Soil to Spoon. To begin, our crew will first visit the Steensma Dairy Farm, located in Linden, Washington.
So I'm Kate Steensma. I'm a 4th-generation dairy farmer here in Whatcom County. Steensma Creamery, 4th-generation family farm committed to regenerative food production. So that means we farm in conscious partnership with animals and land. Yeah.
And how long has your family been farming here on this property in Whatcom County?
Since 1946, so 76, 77 years.
It's really neat. Okay, so we're here in your main pasture. This is pasture number 2, 1, 2.
Yeah.
And you said that there's 16 in total. And so all the cows are coming out here. There's 5 different types of grass in this.
5 different pasture species. 3 grass and 2 legumes.
Okay, and these cows are basically popping by once a day to the different pastures. They go one day on one, and then they rotate to the next one.
1 day per pasture, but yeah, they'll stay out here for a few hours.
And then in like the May-June time frame, it takes about a week for all of this grass to rejuvenate. And so they'll be back here in about a week.
Yes.
Okay, very interesting. Cool. And then the cows have free reign to get inside and out.
Yeah, so they can come in and out. When it's hot out, they tend to prefer to be in the shade in the barn. And all the water is in the barn too, so they'll go back whenever they want to drink of water. But yeah, it's kind of free choice. They can come out here and eat. They can eat inside. They can get water inside. They can take a nap out here or inside, and they can go get milked at will.
Cool.
Yeah. So we have 200 cows here. We have 200 acres. That works out to be a really good ratio of the amount of manure we produce and the amount of feed we need to keep it a closed loop cycle. We also have 2 salmon-bearing streams that flow through our property, and we pay a lot of attention to keeping our riparian buffers good and healthy, and in places where they're a little more patchy, we plant new trees to fill them in. But in every single acre, there are 8 tons of microbes in the soil that are supporting the pasture, breaking things down, breaking down the nutrients that the cows produce so that the pasture can uptake it. That's Henrietta right there.
Which one? The little one?
The 597, yeah. She's got a little bit of milking shorthorn in her. Most of them are Holsteins and Jerseys.
Okay.
But yeah, she has some milking shorthorn blood, and that I think is maybe what makes her coat a little bit different. Yeah.
So if we look at Henrietta, so Henrietta's kind of, I think she's ready to be milked. Am I right or wrong on that? Or is that just she just has a large udder?
They have large udders. She probably could go right now, just based on looking at her. Yeah.
What's that turnover rate for that milk? How often
do they get milked? Yeah, so it depends on how recently they had a baby.
Okay.
That will determine how much milk they're making and how often they can go to the robot to get milked.
Got it.
So some cows are just getting milked twice a day, but the high producers who are like at peak lactation can get milked 5 times a day. Yeah, and it's totally voluntary whenever they want to go. They kind of set their own schedules. Yeah, so we used to have a parlor where they'd walk in and there's at least one person on shift who attaches the machine to them. Now there's a robotic arm that goes in and does all the attachment. They're all wearing collars that has a chip, RFID, in it. So it tracks a ton of data on every animal. How old she is, how much milk she produces at every milking out of each quarter of her udder. How many steps she's taking around the barn. And so if there's any deviation, it will let us know. And when she visits the robot, it knows, oh, it's been 5 hours and 36 minutes since this cow was last here. So based on her historical production, I am going to estimate that she's going to produce this much milk. I like to say that we're sustainable from soil to spoon. The cows are in partnership with the soil. They're turning it into milk. They're creating fertilizer.
After spending a day at the dairy farm, our crew headed an hour south to the town of Concrete, Washington, where we met up with Gryffin and Jessie Berger, a father and son duo who runs an organic apple farm called Sauk Farms.
So I'm Jessie Berger, and I have had this farm here since 2006, and this is my son, Gryffin.
I'm Gryffin Berger. I'm the operations manager and co-owner here with Jessie of Sauk Farm. I had got my degree from WSU in Integrated Plant Sciences. Graduated 2016, and I've been farming here full-time ever since.
Gotcha.
And this is my son, Roman, and he is 8 months old, and he doesn't know it, but he's going to be a farmer. So.
Well, he seems ready for it.
Oh yeah, he loves it here.
And you've given a lot of the hands-on operations to your son. And so what has that been like to watch your son get after it and get out
Really satisfying, because he is really motivated, and he just takes care of it, and he just does a wonderful job, and it's made a real dream come true for me.
So this is a Cosmic Crisp apple tree. This guy was planted in 2018. It is on Geneva 41 rootstock. All of these different growing points you see here that have flowers, those are the spurs. And so the spurs open up and you see the little flowers come out. At first they're white, and then they're pink, and then they start to open up. And so on an apple, just below so if you look, you can tell that this flower here is pollinated already. You see the base of the flower here, you see how it's starting to swell?
Mm-hmm.
That's the start of an apple.
All right, so this is your water irrigation system. Kind of talk me through the process of how this whole thing works. Starting here, your central water source.
We sync it up with soil moisture probes and a weather station, so it waters the trees when they need water and when the soil's low on soil moisture, so there's no waste. When it does sense that it needs water on the schedule, it'll flip this little 12-volt controller here that will run from block to block, and then the water feeds up from that 1.5-inch line onto our 3/4-inch drip line. So the drip line goes all the way down, drips right underneath the trees. The water goes exactly where the trees are, so there's no waste. With a traditional sprinkler system, you'll have about 65% water loss to evaporation. So we want to prevent as much excess water loss as possible. Well, for the apple products, there was every year when you have fresh apples, you always have apples that are too large or too small, or maybe they have damages to them. They're imperfect fruit, right? And so instead of throwing those away, because they're worthless in the eyes of the consumer in the grocery store, unfortunately. So instead of throwing those away, we said, okay, what can we do with them? And so we just started going at it. And then once you make the juice, then you say, well, there's all this pulp left over. It's really tasty. It's nutrition. It's really dense nutritionally. What are we going to do with it? So we dried it, we ground it up into a fine powder, and we started selling apple powder to put in smoothies and oatmeal and muffins, and people loved it. And I like it because there's zero food waste, so we're not throwing anything away, nothing's left, everything goes somewhere, gets used somewhere. Wow. That's really important.
In order for produce to thrive in a farming community, farmers rely on pollinators to fly around and help their crops grow. That's why Marie's Bees in Ferndale, Washington places their hives surrounding local organic farms or even in someone's backyard. So today we're here in Ferndale. We're hanging out with Marisa from Marie's Bees. It's a wonderful bee apiary. What would you call it? What would you consider?
It's an apiary, yeah.
It's an apiary. And what is an apiary?
It's where you house the livestock of honeybees.
Okay. And
it's a honeybee farm.
Okay.
It's an apiary.
And the purpose of the honeybees is to produce honey, to pollinate the local crops here in Ferndale and Whatcom County. And then where are we right now? So we're in Ferndale, we're in someone's backyard.
Yeah.
And why are you installing bees here, of all places?
So my neighbor Mike is an organic farmer, and that's the first thing I look for. And then I look for an area that has lots of food. And so food for bees isn't just things like cherry trees and then your front yard, pollinator garden. It's 90% of their diet are from trees. So see this whole swath of trees, it goes all the way to the freeway back there. It's at least a mile. And that is a food forest for bees. And so I look for that. Next time, what we were looking for is we're looking for the queen.
Okay. So
we're looking for some baby bees. And we're looking for pollen. because that's what they feed baby bees. And then we're looking for honey, which makes it so that when they come out, when they're born, they have a quick food source so they can build up their stamina and get to work.
Okay, so we already checked out this hive off camera.
Yeah.
I had a wonderful time doing that, by
Yeah,
the way.
everybody's happy in there.
Oh, yeah,
They're
that was
go
great.
get them. They're ready. They're rocking it.
So we're gonna check hive number 2. All right, cool, let's do this.
Ready?
Very ready.
So, first thing we notice is this one isn't sealed as much. That shows us that there's hardly anybody. Like, this is the pollen patty that we put in. Look, it's all
Right,
dry.
and there's that paper.
Yep. Okay, so we can just pry this one off. See, now we have lots of drone. This isn't a good sign. Lots of drone comb, hardly any babies.
And what is drone comb?
It's boy comb. It's men. That's not always a good sign. Yeah, see again, there's not, remember how on the other one we saw all of those babies?
Yeah,
And here we're not seeing very much.
yeah.
That's not a very good sign.
So how can you remedy that? How can you fix that?
Well, we'll go into these other ones and see what's going on, and we can, sometimes we'll have to re-queen.
So that means bringing in another queen?
Yeah,
So you'd buy a queen from a local beekeeper?
yeah.
And then you install that queen and hopefully...
And then hopefully they all get along. See, they have no intention of creating a queen. There's no queen cup anywhere.
So you've got to get a queen
So I
in
have to,
here
this
soon.
is a queen emergency. Now we got a lot of brood here.
Big brood.
She's here somewhere.
This is a good looking hive.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, these guys are these are the up and coming, you know.
Ah, the underdogs.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
underdogs. Come on, beep, beep. She's probably here because look at how fresh all of these babies
Yeah.
are. So she's probably on this frame.
Shall we flip?
Yeah.
All right, queen, where you at?
Where are you at,
Queen
girl?
bee. Oh, found her.
There she
Bam.
is. You see her?
Queen bee's here. Check this out, guys. See that one with the dot? So the queen's job in a beehive is to lay eggs and
Yell at people.
Yell at people.
Keep everybody
Basically,
together.
rule the world.
Yeah. She lays about 2,000 eggs a day in the height of the season.
You mentioned something that was really interesting. You mentioned sustainable practices with beekeeping.
Yeah.
What does that look like as a beekeeper?
Oh, there's a few things. One is how you care for the bees. So you'll see these horrific, huge commercial beekeeping companies that you see there's tons of bees over everything and they're just killing the bees and they're going through and they're grabbing all the honey and and they pull all the honey from every single hive and, then they just feed them sugar all winter. We only take a third of the honey. It's just a matter of making sure that they're cared for first. Our needs come second. So other things like using oxalic acid, that's what we do right now. And oxalic acid is, it comes from the rhubarb leaf. So it's not like some weird toxic chemical that is man-made. It's from the environment and it helps keep varroa mite down. The other thing is just the sustainability of, it does link in, but really just educating the public about how, leave those dandelions. Once people learn that there's ways that they can care for the bees and they don't have to be a beekeeper, they feel like they're participating and they're doing something right, which they are.
Mm-hmm. After meeting the cows at the Steensma Dairy Farm, after walking through the rows of apples at Sauk Farm, and after checking in on the hives of bees with Marie's bees, our film crew walked away finally understanding what it means to be a family farm. To be a family farm, it means that you care a lot about the land that you work on, the product that you make, and the community that you serve. Sometimes in life, the best food you can eat goes from soil to spoon.